For the Big Sky, I'm Anthony Crescenzo. Two players deserve specific recognition this week. First, FCS Special Teams Player of the Week, Montana State kicker Tristan Bailey, who carried the Bobcats to a 26-23 win over Western Illinois to open up the Big Sky Missouri Valley Challenge Series. Bailey's the first to kick 4 field goals in a game since 2011. He went 6 for 6, including 2 PATs and a 50-yarder. The Bobcats will meet South Dakota State as part of the series this weekend. Also part of the series this weekend is Northern Colorado in South Dakota, which will be on ESPN3. The other player we should be talking about is Stats Freshman Player of the Week, UC Davis running back Ulonzo Gilliam. He ran for 3 scores in the Aggies' victory over FBS San Jose State. Gilliam carried 23 times for 191 all-purpose yards. If he and Jake Myers have a good day, they should give San Diego a really hard time. In other action, Portland State goes to Oregon to face the Ducks. The Grizz host Drake. Western New Mexico meets the Idaho Vandals. That should be a good one. Southern Utah visits Oregon State. Sac State will be in San Diego State. Gage Goodwood and the Eagles will face Case Cookus and the Lumberjacks in a non-conference matchup, and that's going to be a big air yardage game. In another game that's also a non-conference matchup, Weber State will go against Cal Poly, which is going to be a really heavy-duty ground game, and a lot of you guys already know that. For the FCS Conference Whiparound, I'm Anthony Crescenzo.
The 2018 season is finally underway, and it was an exciting Week 1 in the MEAC. After a win in Week 0 over the top 10 side Jacksonville State, North Carolina A&T followed it up with a 28-23 win over FBS side East Carolina. The win moved the Aggies to number 5 in the FCS stats poll, including 2 first-place votes. In other action around the MEAC, Florida A&M defeated Fort Valley State 41-7. Norfolk State were victorious over Virginia State 34-13, and Howard nearly upset Ohio, falling to the Bobcats 38-32. Howard quarterback Kalen Newton earned Conference Offensive Player of the Week honors, throwing for 439 yards and 3 touchdowns, while rushing for 93 yards and scoring another TD on the ground. Looking ahead to Week 2, there are plenty of intriguing matchups across the MEAC, with several teams facing FBS opposition. Morgan State will travel to Akron to take on the Zips. Florida A&M will take on Troy. Savannah State taking on the Miami Hurricanes, and Howard will face off with Kent State. But our 2 big games of the week will feature top 5 teams in the polls. North Carolina A&T will look for a 3-0 start as they host the Runnin' Bulldogs of Gardner-Webb, while Norfolk State will look to pull a massive upset when they travel to Harrisonburg to face the number 2 ranked JMU Dukes. For the FCS Conference Whiparound, I'm David Hashagen.
Welcome to Week 2. After a crazy Week 1 that saw 1 game get canceled along with 4 teams losing, including Youngstown State, which broke Penguin Nation 20 straight non-conference home wins, along with 4 teams winning, including Indiana State, Southern Illinois with 3 defensive touchdowns, Illinois State and North Dakota State behind running back Bruce Anderson's 185 yards. Now let's look ahead to Week 2. The Missouri Valley Football Conference will get a chance to prove why they are the best conference in the FCS, as 8 teams are in action this week, including 3 games which will be a part of the Big Sky Missouri Valley Football Conference Challenge Series and 4 games against FBS teams. Let's start off by heading to Indiana State as they travel to FBS Louisville. The Sycamores will count on top running back Jaquan Keys and key linebackers Jonas Griffith and Cottrell Moss to control the game. Now to Missouri State, where the Bears host Lincoln. Missouri State quarterback Peyton Hustling will look to build off his big game last week, and defensive standouts Angelo Gerbert and Darius Joseph look to slow down the Big Tigers' offense. To Southern Illinois, where the Salukis travel to Ole Miss. They will be counting on their young defensive line to continue to cause chaos and a few turnovers, while quarterback Sam Straub looks to continue his great play. Heading to Youngstown State, where Penguin Nation look to rebound against FBS number 14 West Virginia. Bo Pelini will look to control the ball with his breakout running backs Tevin McCaster and Christian Turner to head his ground and pound offense, while his punishing defense will have Savon Smith and linebacker Amin Delaved back calling the signals as he swarms around the field. to Western Illinois, where the Leathernecks traveled to FBS Illinois. The Leathernecks quarterback Sean McGuire and running back Steve McShane look to lead the offense, and defensive lineman Kalen Saunders will head what will be a tough, mean defense against the Big Ten. Now to the 3 games this week in the annual Big Sky Missouri Valley Football Conference Challenge. To South Dakota State, where the number 3 Jackrabbits host Montana State. They will look to their career leader in total offense and TD passes and quarterback Tyron Christian to lead their offense, along with a much improved defense led by Kristen Roseboom, and as usual, a very dominating special teams. To South Dakota, where the number 23 Yotes host Northern Colorado. Quarterback Austin Simmons hopes to continue to show the team that he is just as good as former quarterback Chris Strevler while he throws to his new favorite target, Levi Falk, while linebacker Alex Gray continues to be a force on the field. And finally, to Illinois State, where the number 19 Redbirds host their in-state rival Eastern Illinois in the 107th playing of the Mid-American Classic. New Redbirds quarterback Brady Davis looks to continue to show the FCS that he is the real deal, while their top offensive weapons, running backs James Robinson and Markel Smith, and leading wide receiver Spencer Snell, look to continue on their dominant performances of last week. Now let's hand out some awards. Offensive Player of the Week goes to North Dakota State's running back Big Bruce Anderson for his 185 yards and 2 touchdown performance. Defensive Player of the Week goes to South Dakota linebacker Alex Gray for his pick-6 fumble recovery and 2 sacks. And Special Teams Player of the Week goes to Indiana State's kick returner Dakota Catton for his 71-yard punt return. For the Missouri Valley Football Conference, I'm Brian Sullivan.
In Week 1, Wagner came out on top of Bowie State with a strong performance by running back Ryan False. The dynamic senior had 271 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kevin Duke threw for 2 touchdowns, and freshman Julius Chestnut ran for 2, and Sacred Heart easily took care of Lafayette 35-6. Bryant won in a shootout against New Haven 41-31, with wide receiver and kick returner Jean Constant accounting for 3 scores. Duquesne found redemption on the road by beating Lock Haven easily 45-0. Nahari Crawford with 3 touchdowns in the win. Central Connecticut State was dominated by Ball State on the road 42-6, and Robert Morris was handed their first loss of the season by Dayton, losing 49-28. St. Francis lost a heartbreaker to Lehigh 21-19 as Lehigh blocks a late field goal. After Week 1, here are the standings in the NEC. Wagner, Sacred Heart, and Bryant are on top of the NEC with 1 win and no losses apiece. Duquesne is in second with their 1-1 record. Central Connecticut, Robert Morris, and St. Francis hope to turn things around this week as they're all tied for last place with records of 0-1. This week, Bryant hopes that the tandem of Wilson and Constant continue their magic as the Bulldogs travel to Stony Brook. The Seahawks want to put their 38-0 drubbing by Air Force in Week 1 behind them. If Week 1 was any indication, the Bulldogs should get their run game going, as Stony Brook was not able to contain the Air Force rushing attack, giving up 333 yards on the ground. Central Connecticut State looks to get their season on track as they take on Lincoln University this week, who lost to Fayetteville State University 32-0. As the Lions gave up 206 yards on the ground in Week 1, this might be something that the Blue Devils could exploit. Duquesne looks to build on the momentum from Week 1 as they take on Valparaiso this week. The Crusaders are coming off their first winning season since 2003. With 16 starters returning, they want to build on a good 2017 season by starting strong against the Dukes. Robert Morris is at home this week against Virginia. The Colonials want their defense to step up this week after giving up 49 points to the Flyers. The Pioneers are traveling to Bucknell, who are coming off a home loss to William & Mary. While Duke and Chestnut were praised for scoring 2 touchdowns each in last week's victory, Jordan Meacham ran for 132 yards on 17 carries, and Andrew O'Neill had 9 catches for 103 yards. After their heartbreaking road loss to Lehigh, the Red Flash looked to get their offense moving against Delaware State. While both Holder and Lewis had good games Week 1, neither were able to get in the end zone. The Hornets didn't fare any better, giving up 6 touchdowns to Tyree Jackson last week, losing to Buffalo 48-10. Wagner takes on Syracuse this week. The Orange are coming off a slugfest of their own as they beat Western Michigan 55-42. Let's see if either team can muster enough defense to stop the other. This is Scott Glennon with your FCS Whiparound.
Week 1 is in the books, and there were some good wins and some upsets. On opening night, Southeastern Louisiana and Northwestern lost their games, but Chase Virgil of the Lions stood out for me as he had a great opening night, throwing for 358 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 34-31 loss to the Warhawks. Saturday night, the 16th-ranked Cowboys won their game in a close one, 17-14. They were outscored 14-0 in the second half, but still came out with the win. Another close game with the 11th-ranked Colonels winning 26-23 in overtime over the Jayhawks. Colonels quarterback Chase Forcade threw for 142 yards and went 12-24 on the day. And 17th-ranked Central Arkansas was upset by Tulsa 38-27. We look ahead to Week 2, where these are my games to look out for, with Central Arkansas looking to bounce back over Murray State at 7 p.m. Number 4 ranked Sam Houston State looks to get their first win of the season over Prairie View A&M. The Cowboys are taking on Houston Baptist at 7 p.m. and the Colonels taking on Tulane at 8 p.m. on ESPN3. We finished the segment with my Twitter question of the day. Will Central Arkansas bounce back after a Week 1 loss? For the FCS Whiparound, I'm Doug Saravo.
Week 1 was not kind to the majority of the teams in the SWAC conference, as the conference won combined 3-7 in 10 out-of-conference games. Week 2 again features 0 conference matchups, but plenty of intriguing big-time games. The 1-0 Alabama A&M Bulldogs take on North Alabama at home. Mississippi Valley State goes on the road to take on number 13th ranked Jacksonville State. The 2-time defending SWAC champs, Grambling State, look to bounce back after a Week 1 blowout loss to Louisiana, as the Tigers go up against Northwestern State on the road. Prairie View A&M looks to keep the momentum rolling after a 40-24 victory over NC Central. They take on number 4 ranked Sam Houston State in Sam Houston State's season opener. On ESPN3, Texas Southern goes into battle against Texas State as they look to improve their record to 2-0. And the final game of the week in the SWAC, Alabama State travels to Death Valley to take on the Auburn Tigers. That game can be seen on the SEC Network. For FCS Conference Whiparound, I'm Max Bazzone.